Lily had always been fearless, sometimes recklessly so. She grew up in a small town surrounded by dense, dark woods that the locals called the Whispering Woods. Everyone in the town knew the stories. They said the trees were alive, that the forest could speak and lure people inside. Those who entered rarely returned. Some claimed to hear faint laughter. Others said voices calling their names. Children vanished, never to be seen again. Parents whispered warnings. But Lily, stubborn and curious, didn't believe a word of it. One bright morning, with the sky pale and cloudless, Lily set out. She carried a small backpack with water and snacks, but not much else. As she approached the forest's edge, the sunlight struggled through the thick canopy of leaves, casting shifting shadows over the forest floor. It was eerily quiet. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. She stepped inside, feeling the cool air brush her skin, a stark contrast to the warm sunlight outside. The forest felt alive immediately. Branches swayed, though the air was still, and moss-covered roots twisted in strange patterns across the ground. The deeper she went, the taller the trees grew. Their bark gnarled like ancient faces staring at her. A soft breeze carried a faint whisper. "Lily." She froze. Her heartbeat hammered in her chest. "Who's there?" she called, her voice cracking. Only silence answered, but then again, softer this time. "Lily, come play." The whisper was gentle, almost inviting. Against her better judgment, Lily followed the sound, stepping carefully on the uneven ground. Each step seemed to pull her further in, as though the forest itself had extended a hand to guide her. Leaves rustled, not from the wind, but from some unseen motion. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, almost urgent. After walking for what felt like hours, Lily stumbled into a clearing. Sunlight broke through the thick branches, illuminating pale figures, children, around her age, standing in a circle. Their skin was deathly white, their eyes dark and hollow. They smiled at her, and though it seemed innocent at first, there was a hollow, unnatural quality to it.
"Join us, Lily,"
they called in unison. She shivered, a cold wave crawling down her spine. The children were playing a strange game, hopping in rhythm around a patch of ground that seemed darker than the rest. She felt drawn to them, the whispers now pressing directly against her mind. "Come, join, stay." Fear clashed with curiosity. Lily wanted to run, but every instinct seemed warped by the forest's call. She took a step forward. As she did, the children's smiles widened unnaturally, revealing teeth too sharp, too pointed to be human. The trees around her groaned, their twisted limbs reaching out like claws. Suddenly the air turned icy. Lily gasped, her breath visible in the cold that had come out of nowhere. She tried to back away, but the roots snaked around her feet, tripping her. The children closed in. Their hands were icy, their touch burning, pressing cold into her skin like frozen knives. "Stay with us," they whispered, the voices overlapping until they became a scream. Lily fought, kicking and clawing her way back. But the forest itself seemed to resist her escape. The clearing stretched, twisted, and every direction she ran brought her back to the same spot. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. She could no longer tell. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. Cold filled her limbs, and exhaustion made her movements sluggish. In desperation, she screamed. But the sound echoed strangely, bouncing back, distorted, mocking. Shadows moved in the corners of her vision, figures barely seen, whispering secrets of despair. Every tree around her now seemed like a face, eyes following her, mouths whispering. At one point, Lily collapsed to the ground. The children circled her, chanting softly, "You belong here forever." Their hands gripped her arms. Lifting her to her feet, she struggled. But her body felt heavy, unresponsive. A strange numbness spread through her limbs, as if the forest was draining her vitality. She screamed until she was hoarse, but it did no good. Then, as if to taunt her, the children began to fade, leaving her in a dense fog. The whispering didn't stop, it grew, surrounding her completely. Every sound, every thought, every heartbeat was invaded by it. She was no longer just in the forest. She was part of it. Days passed. She tried to run, to find an exit, but the forest changed constantly. Paths twisted, loops repeated. Every time she thought she found the edge, she returned to the same clearing. Her reflection in small pools of water showed a pale, hollow-eyed girl with a twisted smile like the other children. The townspeople searched. They called her name through the trees, but found nothing, except her backpack and a single boot. Worn and dirt-stained, they whispered among themselves about the old legends, but no one dared enter. Inside the forest, Lily's mind began to crack. She could no longer tell if the whispers were inside her head or the trees themselves. Hunger, fear, and madness twisted together, reshaping her until she felt like a part of the dark wood itself. Every thought became theirs. Every feeling belonged to the forest. And then one final moment of awareness. She realized she was smiling. Her skin had paled further. Her eyes hollow and empty, teeth sharp and pointed. The whispers weren't calling her anymore, they were her. And she called the next lost child who wandered too far. Years later, parents warned their children, "Do not go into the whispering woods," and every year, the forest claimed more souls. The whispers carried their names, their voices joining the eternal chorus of the trapped waiting for the next curious, fearless soul to enter. In a quiet village surrounded by rolling hills, an old house stood alone on the edge of town. It had been abandoned for decades, the windows dark and the roof sagging. Everyone knew the stories. They said the attic held a mirror that was cursed. Anyone who looked into it could see their deepest fears, their darkest secrets, but many who dared never returned. Jason was 12, curious and reckless in ways only children could be. He had grown up hearing adults whisper warnings about the mirror, and the stories fascinated him. Sometimes he sneaked past the adults to peer at the house from the distance. Every time he imagined the mirror's surface shimmering in the dusty sunlight, a gateway to something dark. One afternoon, when the village seemed empty and the sun cast long shadows across the streets, Jason decided to see the mirror for himself. He told no one and carried only a small flashlight. The path to the house was overgrown with weeds, the stones slick with moss. His heartbeat raced, part excitement, part fear. The door creaked when he pushed it open, and a chill ran through him. The air smelled of rot and old wood. Dust swirled around his feet, and the sound of his own breathing seemed too loud in the silence. He climbed the stairs slowly, each step groaning under his weight. At the top, he found the attic door slightly ajar. The air grew colder as he pushed it open. There it was. The mirror stood tall in the middle of the room, its ornate frame covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. The glass reflected the dim light of his flashlight, but Jason could sense something wrong. The reflection wasn't normal, it shimmered, almost alive, like smoke trapped in glass. Jason stepped closer. "What's so scary about you?" he muttered half to himself. He reached out and touched the glass. His fingertips brushed the surface and a shiver ran up his spine. At first he saw only himself, but then the reflection changed. Behind him a shadow moved, a dark, twisted figure taller than any person, its face stretched in a cruel, mocking grin. Jason spun around. Nothing was there. When he looked back at the mirror, the figure was closer. Its eyes glowed faintly red and it whispered, "Join me, Jason." Jason stumbled back, heart pounding. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure raised a hand, pointing directly at him. Then a cold, icy touch gripped his shoulder. Jason froze, terror rooting him to the spot. The hand was not warm, not even human. It was cold as death. The mirror's surface rippled. Jason's reflection stretched, twisted, his own face staring back at him with hollow eyes and a screaming mouth. The shadow whispered again, closer this time. "Forever, join me. You cannot leave." Jason tried to run, but the room seemed to stretch. The walls twisted, the floor warped beneath his feet. Every direction he turned brought him back to the mirror. The air was thick, heavy, filled with a scent of decay. Panic surged and he pounded at the glass. The mirror shivered and sucked him closer, tugging at his body like invisible hands. His fingers scraped the wooden floor as he tried to pull away, but it was futile. He felt his body stretching, flattening, being absorbed. Every scream he tried to make echoed in his mind. Hours or maybe minutes passed. Jason could no longer tell. His world shrank to the reflection, the shadow, the cold grip on his soul. He tried to fight, but the mirror was endless, pulling him in, twisting him until he was no longer himself. Outside villagers sometimes peeked at the house, curious. They never noticed anything strange, only the silent, empty windows. But inside, Jason's voice screamed endlessly, trapped within the glass. Anyone who dared approach the mirror might catch a glimpse of him, pale and contorted, pleading silently, but always too late. Over time, Jason changed. He became part of the mirror, his face one of many trapped within its dark depths. The shadow was still there, waiting, patient, smiling cruelly. The house seemed quiet again, but the air in the attic was alive with whispers, cries, laughter, and the cold pull of unseen hands. A week later, a new curiosity-driven child peered through the dusty window. The whispers reached out, soft and inviting. Come closer." And in the mirror, Jason's face appeared among the others. Silent now, hollow-eyed, smiling faintly. He was trapped, forever part of the glass. And the shadow? Patient, eternal, watching, waiting for the next soul brave or foolish enough to touch the haunted mirror. No one ever entered that attic again. The house aged, crumbled, and decayed. But the mirror remained, its surface still shimmering in the dim light, waiting. And inside, Jason screamed, trapped forever, a prisoner of the darkness. His fate as brutal as the legends foretold. Sarah and John were thrilled to move into their new apartment. It was small but cozy, with creaking wooden floors and tall windows that let in golden afternoon light. They were young, in love, and full of hope. They didn't know, however, that the apartment had a past they could never imagine. The first nights were quiet, almost peaceful. But soon strange things began to happen. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside their bedroom, soft and irregular. Sometimes they would hear whispers in a language neither of them recognized. Sarah told herself it was the building settling, that the noises were just her imagination. John laughed nervously, pretending to dismiss it, but he too felt a growing unease. One evening, as they prepared for bed, a loud bang came from the kitchen. Startled, they ran to check, but nothing was out of place. The cabinets were closed, the dishes untouched. "Probably just the pipes," John said, though neither of them believed it. The next morning, Sarah noticed a handprint on the wall near the door. It was grayish, almost like soot, but clearly shaped like a human hand. They cleaned it off, but the next night, the noises returned, this time louder, closer, as if the apartment itself had come alive. Determined to uncover the truth, they set up a camera. That night, they watched in horror. A shadowy figure emerged at the foot of their bed. It was tall, its movements unnatural, almost floating. Its face was hidden in darkness, but its presence radiated malevolence. It stood watching, waiting, its eyes fixed on them as they slept. Sarah shivered. "We have to leave," she whispered. John nodded, gripping her hand tightly. The next morning, they packed frantically, but the apartment resisted. Doors slammed shut on their own. Windows refused to budge. The temperature dropped suddenly, their breath visible in the cold air. Then came the voice, low, deep, and furious. "Get out!" It echoed through the apartment, shaking the walls. Sarah pulled John toward the door. Just as they reached it, the shadow lunged. Its movement was impossible, almost liquid, filling the doorway. John pushed Sarah out first, but the door slammed behind him. He was trapped. The shadow didn't touch Sarah immediately. It followed her gaze, waiting. She looked back and saw John struggling, being dragged back by invisible hands. His screams echoed in her mind. The shadow's form twisted and grew, stretching into every corner of the apartment. Sarah ran to the stairs, the building itself seeming to shift, trying to trap her. She burst into the street, gasping for air. She called for help, but the neighbors were nowhere to be seen. It was as if the entire building had vanished from the world. Inside, John fought, but the shadow was patient and cruel. It whispered promises of pain, threats, and doom. It told him he would never leave, that the apartment had claimed him as it had others before. Every attempt to escape failed. The walls bent inward, closing around him. His own reflection in the dark window stared back at him, twisted and hollow. Hours or perhaps days passed. John's cries grew weaker until there was only silence. The shadow absorbed him fully, leaving nothing but a faint outline, a ghostly imprint that flickered like a dying candle. He was gone. Sarah, meanwhile, wandered the streets in a daze. She never returned to the apartment, but at night she felt its presence. Sometimes she thought she heard whispers on the wind, calling her name, reminding her of what she had left behind. The apartment remained empty, but inside, the shadow waited, patient, hungry, eternal. Years later, another couple moved in. They noticed nothing unusual at first. The walls were clean. The air smelled faintly of wood polish. But when night fell, they too began to hear the soft footsteps, the faint whispers, and sometimes the voice that thundered, "Get out!" The shadow had claimed new victims, adding them to its collection. Sarah never returned, but she often dreamt of John, trapped, screaming silently in the darkness, a reminder of the apartment's cruelty. The building was alive and it would never stop hunting. And so the apartment waited, empty but hungry. Every door, every window, every shadow was part of it. Anyone who stayed too long, anyone curious or careless would vanish. There was no escape. There was only the shadow, patient and brutal, waiting for the next unwary soul to step inside.